There's so much console war brain rot. You'll be so shocked to see some of the things that I'm seeing. See, ladies and gentlemen, for the longest time, since like 2023, I've been telling people, I've been saying Game Pass is really going to rock the boat. I've been saying it. It seemed like Xbox was putting in everything. I didn't even realize that much more than I could even expect, especially looking at Bethesda and their secret sauce in terms of the possibility of like remasters and possible remakes that apparently gamers are begging for. Man, it's insane. To be very honest, nobody was begging for a remaster or remake of The Last of Us Part 2, nor was anybody begging for a remaster or remake or of Days Gone. They were begging for remaster and remakes of games that were coming out around the same time as some of the Elder Scrolls games. But PlayStation refused to do them. Xbox, on the other hand, now having owned these IPs, is doing them. But that's even a sidebar from our conversation today. The conversation at hand is, how do these developers see Game Pass? I remember Christopher Drink, who was at GamesIndustry.biz and has now gone on to another publication, actually talking about Game Pass and how, developers kind of looked at how the system was, that, the Game Pass deals were drying up. And he even said at one point, and my recollection is a little hazy, that Xbox seemed to be pulling away from the Game Pass thing and blah, blah, blah. Then that cascaded into a lot of the industry talking about stuff, saying things like, well, Game Pass is bad for the industry. Developers who want to do this need to not do that. And I kept saying, based on the information that we had, that this particular business model had viability to it. In fact, it had such viability to it. Phil Spencer came out and talked about how Game Pass, basically pays its gets developers paid, and also talked about how much money is put in each year to acquire content. Bucky Palworld, communications director and publishing manager at Pocket Pair, comes out and makes this statement. He says, Expedition 33 is the latest game to get unwillingly dragged through gaming Twitter as people debate the viability of Game Pass. I feel like I've just a little more knowledge on the topic than most, so I'll just say yes. Yes, it is very worth having your game on Game Pass. It's interesting when somebody tries to say it, or when Phil Spencer tries to say it, but when a developer who has actually benefited from it says it, I think this pretty much puts its foot on the neck of those trash arguments, because that's exactly what's needed. We've been needing the reviews from the devs themselves. We get the customer reviews, the 3-star, the 5-star, and it gives you an understanding from that perspective. But now from the developer side, those whom have basically been portrayed to be as, you see, they have to put their games on Game Pass, they're suffering. That's what some of these PlayStation fanboys threw out there. And then he said, I speak from the perspective, the point of view of an indie developer. I have no experience working in AAA, so I'm not sure, what deals are cooked up there. But we've shipped 2 games on Game Pass, and we're very happy with both. So all I can say is, I'm happy with the experience that I had. Do you know what a fanboy said? They said, and I can happily choose to buy it elsewhere and actually support the devs. The amount of brain rot that is in this console war thing, what it's doing to people, is so funny. And I can read, and I can praise God for the hope in humanity that we still have. And some people basically came out and said, this man is literally a developer, and he's telling you that playing the game on Game Pass is supporting them. This person said the subscribers of Game Pass are also supporting the devs. This person says, saying this to an actual developer, telling you Game Pass is a benefit to them. Game Pass subscription is supporting the devs. Do you think Microsoft isn't paying them? Right? This guy said, whose tweet you just commented on, right? Do you think the developer puts it on Game Pass for free? The next person says. This person said the person in the chain that gets supported is the devs. This person said, this post is from a dev that launched a game into Game Pass day 1, right? A very successful game, Palworld. Ladies and gentlemen, they know that they have nothing else. A lot of these people are going to go buy an Xbox or buy something that can access Xbox's ecosystem and start playing the games that they see that they want to play. It used to be they had all of these different, excuses. There were excuses all out the wazoo. I've seen many of them. I have read a lot of comments. Dude, some of you on this channel, you guys are OGs. You guys are legends. You've left so many comments on here, and YouTube shows me the number. I'm like, man, that's insane. Let me show you something. They started out with the whole claim that Xbox didn't have games, right? That Game Pass didn't have, games that they wanted. They were like, Game Pass, this is their claim number one. Game Pass didn't have games that they wanted. Now there are games. Boom. They're like, well, no one is supporting the devs, so I'm going to support the devs. And the devs are like, no. Game Pass does support us. And now they're like, you know what? I'm still going to go ahead and say nonsense because, my brain can't think of anything else that is valid to say, even though I know the truth. And these people are they're being purposefully obtuse. You know that many of them are trolling, right? You know that, right? Many of them are just trolling because they have, the ability to hide behind anonymity. If this was a real life situation, these people would probably never sound like this. Does that make sense? The comfort of the keypad is what these folk are resting on. And all they want to do is sit here and pretend as if they know what they're talking about. But they actually have no clue what they're talking about. They really don't. They absolutely do not. Check this out. This is also funny. I mean, as you continue to go through, you see a lot of whatever. This person said, I don't get where the idea that a game being on Game Pass means the developer isn't getting paid comes from. How do these people think Netflix or Prime Video work? Say, Cookie, you have no idea the amount of brain rot that is on here. I mean, you have no idea how much nonsense is going on right here at the end of the day. This person said all people need to do is look at all. The repeat customers, Kepler Interactive, who published this game, and a repeat Game Pass customer, which makes it clear that they know it's worth putting their games on there. Thank God people still have sense. Man, because you would have thought that somewhere, somehow, these people were privy to some information that we don't know. And you know what? I have to lay the blame at those so-called talking heads who have, in a sense, fomented this brain rot to individuals out here. And also some of the media themselves who have fomented this nonsense brain rot out there. There are many culprits to this. And I told all of you, I said, all Xbox needs to do is just continue dropping games. That's their only job right now. Just drop the games. Just launch them. Launch it. Shadow drop it. Whatever the heck it is that they want to keep doing, they ought to keep doing it. That's how you pretty much go ahead and take over this particular PR nightmare that Xbox has been facing all this while, because they really are. They are facing a PR nightmare. And it's not a PR nightmare that they did anything wrong for. It's just a PR nightmare that it was profitable to write about all the controversy surrounding Xbox, because Xbox is actually quite lenient with the press. PlayStation and Nintendo handles them with an iron hand. That's why they can hardly criticize PlayStation. If you notice, their lips get cold when it's time for them to actually say anything that PlayStation may be doing wrong, because they're not going to get access. They're not going to get review codes. They're going to get shunned. But now, even PlayStation doesn't even have enough games to match Xbox and worry about review codes. These folk don't even need review codes with Game Pass. They just know they can pretty much play the game day one and do their 5-hour reaction and launch it almost at the same time that every other reviewer that may have got an early review. Even the reviewers are benefiting from Game Pass. Even the talking heads on YouTube have Game Pass accounts. Almost every single one of them. And on Twitter, they all have their Game Pass accounts while they sit here and try to tell you nonsense. And this brain rot continues to fester itself and grow like mold. It needs to be cleaned out. And the only way it's going to be cleaned out is by shining the light of truth on it. And that's it. That's all we can do. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.